All right. Hey, what's happening? All right, so I'm gonna go to this. I'm watching my screen, and it says here that Sam Altman testifies about AI competition. It's live, so I'm gonna go to it. I'm gonna be doing some work, so let's watch this bad boy together.
I think it would be quite bad. I think it's very difficult to imagine us figuring out how to comply with 50 different sets of regulation. And in many of these states, there have been, dozens of different bills proposed that I understand several of which could be passed. That will slow us down at a time where I don't think it's in anyone's interest for us to slow down. One federal framework that is light touch, that we can understand and that lets us, move with the speed that this moment calls for seems important and fine. But the sort of every state takes a different approach here, I think would be quite burdensome and significantly impair our ability to do what we need to do, and hopefully you all want us to do too.
Does anyone disagree with Mr. Altman's assessment of a patchwork? Thank you. I have some questions about the infrastructure that is going to be necessary to lead and compete in AI. So my next questions are for our infrastructure providers, Mr. Smith and Mr. Is it Intrader or
That's correct.
Intrader? Thank you. Could you elaborate on how current permitting processes have impacted your ability to rapidly deploy AI infrastructure? The more specific you can be, the better.
So, quick comment on the patchwork, and then I'll dive in here. Is the investment that we're making on the infrastructure side is enormous, and the idea that you can make an investment that could then become trapped in a jurisdiction that has a particular type of regulation that would not allow you to make full use of it is really very, very suboptimal. And makes the decision making around infrastructure challenging. As far as the permitting goes, whenever this topic comes up, the discussion around permitting is excruciating, and it's excruciating from the ability to quickly build and to build large. And I think that is kind of from the data center forward, without even beginning the discussion from the data center back through the energy infrastructure that is necessary to be able to power these large investments at the scale that make them of relevance to moving artificial intelligence forward. I'm happy to spend more time kind of digging into more details, but probably do that directly.
Okay, and I'll look forward to that conversation because I'm worried about Wyoming's very clean natural gas being something your industry's concerned about because President Trump likes natural gas, but President Biden didn't. And if you build huge data centers and another president comes along who's anti-natural gas, that's a concern for you as you're deciding how to deploy capital. Mr. Smith, do you agree?
Generally, I do. I mean, I would say we need consistency across administrations in this country. We need to find more opportunities for bipartisan agreement. And I'll just highlight that in Cheyenne, where we've long had a data center complex, we do have backup generators that run on natural gas. So there are a variety of ways for us to put different energy supplies to good use.
Are you exploring small modular nuclear?
Yes, including with people in Wyoming.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Altman, I'm pleased to hear you are releasing an open, oh, my time's up, excuse me. It goes so fast.
I'd love to talk to you about it another time.
Okay.
We're very excited about it too.
Yeah, thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Chairman Cruz. I saw ready to push the button, and anyway, time does go by very fast. Thank you for having this hearing. I really believe in the promise of AI. It's so exciting, and we have to ask the right questions in order to promote its growth on one hand, and how it can explore and create these new possibilities and pathways, and also how do we protect ourselves from bad actors or outcomes as best as we can know at the time. And Mr. Altman, thank you for spending some time with me yesterday. I look forward to continuing to work with you on this. So I want to start a little bit today at DeepSeek and adversarial AI, because in February I introduced bipartisan legislation with Senator Husted to prohibit the using DeepSeek on government devices. And earlier this week, Senator Cassidy and I introduced a bill that would expand those prohibitions to include federal contractors. So, Mr. Smith, what should our approach be to AI models that are developed in or by adversarial countries like the PRC? Should we be concerned about our adversaries co-opting AI to promote a particular ideology, collect sensitive U.S. data, and how are you combating this threat?
Well, I think you can take the DeepSeek example, and it illustrates it well. And I think it's just worth thinking about the fact that DeepSeek produced two things. They have a model that is an open source model, and they have an application, the DeepSeek app. At Microsoft, we don't allow our employees to use the DeepSeek app. We did not put the DeepSeek app in our app store because of the kinds of concerns that you mentioned, namely data going back to China and the app creating the kinds of content that I think people would say were associated with Chinese propaganda. At the same time, because the model itself is an open source model, it was possible for us to go in it, analyze it, and change the code in the model, which we and other people have the permission to do, to remove the harmful side effects. And so I think we have to always think about the different aspects of the technology. I will say put security first, and then go forward from there.
Thank you. I think we all know that data is the real power in our current world. He or she or whomever owns the data really can control a lot of what we do. But I want to move on and speak with you, Mr. Altman, about AI and anti-Semitism a little bit, because earlier this year, ADL released a report showing that several major generative AI models have perpetuated dangerous anti-Semitic stereotypes and, sadly, conspiracy theories. So, Mr. Altman, what steps is industry taking to ensure that AI models don't perpetuate anti-Semitism? Will you consider collaborating with civil society to create kind of a standard benchmark for AI related to anti-Semitism, use it as a form of evaluation, and then maybe we could use those for other forms of hate as well?
We of course, we do collaborate with civil society on this topic, and we are excited to continue to do so. We want our users to have freedom to use models in the way they want, but we also don't want them to be damaging to sort of the fabric of society or particular groups. There will always be some debate, and the question of free speech in the context of AI is novel, and I think it's different than what we faced before. We really do view these as tools for users one-on-one, but of course we're not here to make horrible anti-Semitic products.
Thank you. I want to move on to Senator Lujan talked about data center energy use, water use, something we're all really concerned about. I want to put on top of that a little bit about data center security, add that to the mix. So last Congress, I actually got a bill passed into law, my bipartisan Federal Data Center Enhancement Act. It establishes cybersecurity and resiliency standards for federal data centers. And so to Mr. Smith, or I'm sorry, Dr. Su, thank you. Dr. Su, I want to ask you a little bit about hardware. Are there ways the hardware, like the chips AMD designs, new chips that we're hoping to think about? I know my career as a software developer, we just know things have gotten smarter, faster, and the cooler they can be, the better we can compute. So how can we make our chips cooler? How can we make our data centers, our computing power more secure? And I know interoperability is sometimes a factor, but can you talk about this a little bit?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator. I think all of those things are extremely important, as you said. So in our part of the energy efficiency, power constraints that we have from a chip standpoint. Our job is to continue to make our chips more and more efficient every year. We've seen 30 times improvement over the last few years, and we will continue to focus in that area. And then to your comments about security and ensuring that our chips are secure and people are not somehow breaking into them. Those are also very high priorities in our overall development cycle for future generation chips as well.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to working with all of you again on these important issues. Mr. Chairman.
Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the witnesses for the testimony today. I appreciate the chairman calling this hearing. And I agree with Senator Cruz's opening statement about this is a matter of national economic and national security in terms of our race, however you want to call it, competition with China. So I know this topic has been pressed, but I want to dig down a little bit deeper. Do you agree with that, all of you? I'm just going to ask some quick questions, that this is a huge issue of national security, economic security relative to China, and we as America need to win in that regard. Very important. Everybody nodding their head. And then I know that it had been touched, but is the consensus among the witnesses that we are ahead right now, but is kind of tentative lead? What would be very quickly, we'll start with you, Mr. Altman. What's your assessment on that? I know we've already talked about it. I just want to set the context for some of the questions.
Yeah, I believe we are leading the world right now. I believe we'll continue to do so. We want to make AI in the United States, and we want the whole world to get to benefit from that. I think that is the strongest thing for the United States. I think it's also the right thing to do for all the people of the world. And I really appreciate you all being with us here today, because I think we'll need your help, and everything you're saying, or almost everything you're saying, sounds great.
So as I ask this question, I'll ask if you guys think we're ahead, but then the key things when you say we need your help, what would, very succinctly, sometimes we're not so smart up here, what would the key things be that you would need from the U.S. government to help us maintain that lead and dominate this space, which is what I think we need to do? Mr. Altman, again, to you real quick on that.
We've talked a little bit about infrastructure, but I think we cannot overstate how important that is, and the ability to have that whole supply chain, or as much of it as possible, in the United States. The previous technological revolutions have also been about infrastructure and the supply chain, but AI is different in terms of the magnitude of resources that we need. So projects like Stargate that we're doing in the US, things like bringing chip manufacturing, certainly chip design to the US, permitting power quickly, like these are critical. If we don't get this right, I don't think anything else we do can help. On the model creation side, we've talked about the need for certainty on our ability to train and to have fair footing with the rest of the world to make sure we can remain competitive. The ability to offer products under a reasonable, fair, light touch regulatory framework where we can go win in the market, because the products will be so key to the sort of feedback loops and making them better and better, and the ability to deploy them quickly and win at the product level in addition to the model and infrastructure and data area is really quite important. The ability to bring the most talented people in the world here, the most talented researchers. We have a ton in the United States. There's more out in the world. We should try to get them all here, improving models here. I think those are some of the specifics.
Good. That's very helpful. Let me ask Mr. Smith, two other ones that I want to touch on. I agree fully with Senator Lummis. I'm sure Senator Cruz has the same view. One of our comparative advantages over China, in my view, has to be energy. All of the above energy. Hopefully you've seen in Alaska, we have a very large scale LNG project that I think we're going to get off the ground here. We've been working on for a long time. We will have 100 years supply of natural gas. So we want you guys all to come up to Alaska with your data centers. We got cold weather. We got a lot of cold weather. We got gas, we got land, we got water, we got it all.
That's very compelling.
So yeah, come on up. When this project's done, 100-year gas supply, a little colder than Texas. So two questions that relate to our comparative advantage. Mr. Smith, and then any others who want to jump in. Energy, do we think that is? I think it is. And then second, it's, I think, somewhat of a disadvantage. It frustrates me. maybe you guys don't see this. We've had American finance companies, venture capital firms, banks, others that remarkably, all the opportunities we have in America are helping fund some of these projects in China. I've been a real staunch opponent of Americans who have opportunities to invest in other places, investing in Chinese AI, Chinese quantum, because we all know they're going to use that to help make their military more lethal. I mean, that's what they do. I was reading recently about this Benchmark Capital. I don't know these guys, but they evidently did a $75 million round for some an AI company.
Really quick, look at Ethereum.
In China. Is that another problem as well, Mr.
Ethereum.
Smith? Advantage
Finally
Energy
pumping,
problem,
right?
American
Over 2,000.
companies financing our competition.
XRP $2.24.
I would connect three things: energy,
Bitcoin
people,
back over
and access to
100K.
capital.
Good
The
days
U.S.
so
has
far.
huge
Good
resources
day.
in energy, but never underestimate the ability of China to build a lot of electrical power plants, maybe more and faster than any other country. So we are better off going into that with the mindset that we have to keep up and not take anything for granted. But then I would say the number one comparative advantage of the United States throughout the 50 years that have defined digital technology has been bringing the world's best people to our country and giving them access to venture capital. And we should continue to burnish both of those. And I think you're right to ask, where else is venture capital going? I'll just say this: if we can keep bringing the best people to the United States, and if we can keep educating the best people in the United States, I believe the money will be here to enable them to succeed. But let's make sure we're continuing to bring the best people in the world and giving them the opportunity to build great companies here in the United
And if
States.
American venture capital funds funding Chinese AI, is that in our national interest?
I think there's a really good question about whether it is. And I recognize that you all are quite rightly focused on that. I'll just keep saying, bring the people here, they will have access to the money, and we will outcompete the world.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Markey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. I'd like to talk about the environmental impact of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can help us combat climate change by improving weather forecasts and enabling us to better predict power supply and demand. But designing and training and deploying AI models also poses real risk for our environment. The massive data centers that are critical for AI development require substantial amounts of electricity, putting stress on the grid and potentially raising costs for consumers. These data centers also generate significant heat. Cooling them requires huge volumes of water, often in regions already facing droughts because of climate change. And some data centers have on-site backup diesel generators, which can cause respiratory and cardiovascular issues and can increase the risk of cancer for the surrounding community. The truth is, we know too little about both the environmental costs and benefits of AI. Mr. Smith, do you agree that it would be helpful for the government to conduct a comprehensive study on environmental impact of artificial intelligence?
Generally, yes. One study was just completed last December, and I think it's worth updating periodically.
Do you think it would be helpful for the government to convene stakeholders, including from industry and academia, to help better measure AI's environmental impact?
I think, as well as many other things that need to be measured, yes, I think there's a role to be played.
Mr. Altman, do you agree that the federal government should help with studying and measuring the environmental impact of AI?
I think studying and measuring is usually a good thing. I do think that the conversation about the environmental impact of AI and the relative challenges and benefits has gotten somewhat out of whack. I am hopeful that AI, we've been trying to address climate and environmental challenges unsuccessfully or not successfully enough for a long time. I think we need help. I think AI can help us do that. We've proposed, or we're in the process of building a 10 gigawatt facility, and we've got another kind
But my question is, should the federal government be on an ongoing basis studying the impact of AI?
Sure, and I think you should use AI to help.
So that's why this Congress introduced the Artificial Intelligence Environmental Impact Act to study both the positive and negative consequences of AI. As the technology continues to develop, as models become more efficient, And as we build out the infrastructure, we need to do it. Yes, AI might find a cure for cancer. It may. But AI also could help to contribute to a climate disaster. That's also equally true. Okay? So we need to just keep both of those things right on the table, especially as the Trump administration is ignoring the fact that last year, 94% of all new installed electrical generation capacity in the United States was wind, solar, and battery. And Trump has said he's going to destroy all incentives for continuation of that. Okay? That's something you have to weigh in on, make sure he does not do that. So I look forward to working with you on that. Now I want to turn to AI's impact on disadvantaged communities. After all, we're not just talking about using artificial intelligence to write emails or plan grocery lists. We're talking about technology used to calculate a family's mortgage, screen an individual's job application, and determine a senior's medical care. When used in these situations, it is absolutely essential that AI-powered algorithms are free from bias and discrimination. So let's start with a simple question. Mr. Smith, can algorithms be biased and cause discrimination?
They can, which is why we test to avoid that outcome.
Okay, same question, Mr. Altman. Can algorithms be biased and cause discrimination?
Of course. Of course.
Of course. Mr. Altman, does OpenAI work to guard against such bias and discrimination in chat GPT?
Of course.
Of course. So I'm glad to hear that, because you recently stated that the government should not implement privacy regulations on AI, but instead, quote, respond very quickly as the problems emerge. And I am very deeply worried about that approach. We don't need to wait and see if poorly tested and trained algorithms will harm marginalized communities. Artificial intelligence is already supercharging the bias and discrimination prevalent in our society. Biased and discriminatory algorithms mean Black and brown families are less likely to obtain a mortgage. It means people with disabilities are less likely to be recommended for a job opening. And it means women are less likely to receive scholarships for higher education. These are real harms that are happening right now. It is Congress's job to address these existing problems that come with the rapid development and deployment of AI. And it's why I'm the proud author of the AI Civil Rights Act, which would ensure that companies review and eliminate bias and discrimination in their algorithms before developing and deploying them. It has to happen simultaneously. And it will hold companies accountable when their algorithms cause harms against marginalized population. I will be fighting to ensure AI does not stand for accelerating inequality in our nation. All of the protections we have in the real world should be moved to the virtual world, because the same discriminations, again, women, Black, brown, communities with disabilities, LGBTQ community are going to move online. And we have to build in the protections against that bias right up front, because otherwise those same discriminatory practices will just migrate immediately, and the responsibility of the industry will be to work with Congress to make sure we put those protections on the books. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of our witnesses. Thank you for being here. It's a incredibly important topic, and we appreciate your expertise. As we're looking at making sure that the United States is the world leader in AI, certainly we've been talking about supply chains and infrastructure and all of those aspects, but one area that I want to particularly focus on is workforce and people, to make sure that we have the talent there. That's why I authored the AI Scholarship for Service Act and the AI Training Act. Both of those were signed into law in 2022. Earlier this year, I introduced my AI and Critical Technology Workforce Framework Act to continue the effort along those lines, and love to work with each of you as we look at other legislation necessary to make sure we've got the workforce trained to take advantage of this amazing technology. I do want to do a shout out to the University of Michigan, that actually became the first university in the world to provide generative AI tools for their entire student body to prepare them for the workforce of tomorrow. So I want to talk a little bit about the workforce, but Mr. Altman, when we met last year in my office and had a great conversation, you said that upwards of 70% of jobs could be eliminated by AI. and you acknowledge that the possible social disruption of this. If that's happening, we have to prepare for it. We're not going to stand in the way of the incredible opportunities here. But if this is indeed going to occur, we've got to be thinking pretty deeply about how that will be managed and make sure that everybody can benefit from AI, not just a select few that benefit. So talk to me about how you believe leaders in your industry can help mitigate job losses or deal with what could, as you described it last year, a major social disruption.
The thing that I think is different this time than previous technological revolutions is the potential speed. Technological revolutions have impacted jobs and the economy for a long time. Some jobs go away, some new jobs get created. Many jobs just get more efficient, and people are able to do more and earn more money and create more, and that's great. Over some period of time, society can adapt to a huge amount of job change, and you can look at the last couple of centuries and see how much that's happened. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows exactly how fast this is going to go, but it feels like it could be pretty fast. The most important thing, or one of the most important things I think we can do, is to put tools in the hands of people early. We have a principle that we call iterative deployment. We want people to be getting used to this technology as it's developed. We've been doing this now for almost 5 years since our first product launch. As society and this technology co-evolve, putting great capable tools in the hands of a lot of people and letting them figure out the new things that they're going to do and create for each other and come up with and provide sort of value back to the world on top of this new building block we have and the sort of scaffolding of society. That is, I think, the best thing we can do as OpenAI and as our industry to be a sort of help smooth this transition.
The idea, we want to get to the point where AI isn't displacing work, but actually enhancing work, that people are more productive and doing things that we probably can't even imagine what people will do. If we look 100 years ago, we have jobs that no one dreamed
can't
actually
imagine.
occurred.
And I don't think we can imagine the jobs on the other side of this. But even if you look today at what's happening with programming, which I'll pick because it's sort of my background and near and dear to my heart, what it means to be a programmer and an effective programmer in May of 2025 is very different than what it meant last time I was here in May of 2023. These tools have really changed what a programmer is capable of, the amount of code and software that the world is going to get. And it's not like people don't hire software engineers anymore.
Right.
They work in a different way and they're way more productive.
Right. Dr. Su, we certainly talk a lot about open source AI, but most of the conversation has been about software. However, making technology open and able to work together matters at every level, as you know, from chips that power the devices to the servers that are running behind the scenes. So a question for you is, what are the benefits of open standards and system interoperability at the hardware level, not the software level? And what are the implications for innovation, national security, as well as resilience in the supply chain?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Senator. I think there are an incredible number of advantages to having an open ecosystem at the hardware and the software and the application level. The idea is, there's no one organization or one group that has all the good ideas. And so enabling the ecosystem to work together so that you can choose the best solution at every level, and then also optimization across a broad set of constituents is a good thing. I think it's also very good from a security standpoint to ensure that, again, there are many choices so that we're not dependent on a single ecosystem. So, we continue to be very forward thinking in open standards as well as open ecosystems.
So your model is an open model. I understand NVIDIA is a closed model. What are the advantages, disadvantages? Which should we be thinking about?
I think the major advantage in an open model, and that is something that we very much support, is the idea that we can have innovation come from many different parties, and whether that is hardware innovation. So
here's the deal here, my friends. We'll do this. Let's take a look at the market. I'm about to jump on and day trade. I'll be day trading for the next about an hour and a half, right? Day trading the S&P 500 futures. And let's see here. Just taking a look over there, you can see XRP 224. You'll love to see it. And that was cool, by the way, that hearing. That's very interesting, right? AI is going to be massive, no doubt about it. And that from Sam Altman, pretty interesting. You know, between that today, the Trump announcement, the fact that these tariffs, which everybody was freaking out, I don't understand why they are freaking out. You know it's going to get better. And now look at the market. We got Ethereum back over 2,000 right now. Bitcoin coming in at, what is that? 101,000. It is looking good. So if you are still here with me, I'm going to be doing a lot more in the streaming. Very interesting. Wanting to keep up to date with all this stuff. Get this market pounding, but everything's looking great. I'm going to get on board. I'm going to be day trading. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Tomorrow in the morning, if you want to day trade with me, I do it at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then I want to start kind of seeing what news events of importance are going on around 11 o'clock so we can stream, look at the markets, talk about it. Okay. You have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And go XRP. Peace.